Well, good evening, everyone. How are you? Good Monday evening. I hope you all had an absolutely fantastic weekend. I hope you had fun. I hope you went out and did a lot of fun stuff. I hope you gamed. I hope you saw your friends and loved ones. If you didn't game, I hope you were able to relax and just put your feet up and enjoy. I am Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're just stopping by, please consider clicking that subscribe button and that bell icon for notifications. But if you just kind of prefer to take it in a little bit more passively, you know what? That's absolutely fine. That is absolutely positively fine. I don't mind. But it's good to see you all. Praxis, I'm glad you had fun. My weekend went a little sideways. My plan on Saturday, and I want to be 100% honest here. I hold nobody responsible for this. Okay, this is not a case of, well, I'm about to start off on a rant because all I'm about is positivity. Good evening, GR. Good to see you. So I went out to Gods and Monsters, and half of my fun of going to Gods and Monsters isn't to go and to be seen. It's to see people. Todd and Anna are wonderful, wonderful people, and I love them to pieces. And they put up with me, and they let me come out there and run my games and stuff at their events. Sometimes even when it's not necessarily a gaming event, they'll say, Bill Sylvie will be here, and he'll have a table set up, and he'll be gaming. And I feel all special about that, and that makes me happy. But they got hosed by their landlord big time. They got the pointy end, shaft, handle, and all. The place where their vendors for their 5th anniversary event, 7th anniversary event, sorry, were supposed to be set up at. Good evening, Dungeon Minister. I'm glad you're here. It's good to see you. Was all torn up. They had like a 2-foot wide space right in front of their store. And a couple of months ago, they were informed by their landlord that the atrium that they were using outside of their store, it's an enclosed atrium. It's a mini mall. So there's shops down either side, and then there's just a back wall of the atrium. They could no longer have that. They could no longer do stuff out there. And it's shrunk precipitously over the years. When they left their massive location, they were able to bring all their arcade games and all their event table spaces and that sort of thing with them. And as time has gone on, he has taken away more and more and more. And then coming up on their anniversary, their 7th store anniversary, construction that was supposed to take 2 weeks that started a month ago was still ongoing. So the gaming was canceled. I stayed and saw my friends, Todd and Anna, of course, met some of the new employees there, and we plotted and schemed, and free RPG day on the 25th, we're gonna take over the front of the store a little bit. Well, I'm gonna take over the front of the store near the counter a little bit. On the inside, I will still be playing first edition AD&D. I will still be playing Tales from the Loop. I might try and fit some other gaming here and there. So we're still going to have a good time. And thank you very much, Todd and Anna. I love you both. Thank you very much. I love this pint glass too. This pint glass. This is great underground online gaming convention merch. This was designed by the Dungeon Minister. That assault on the area of the slave lord, got us captured. It certainly did, Robert Phillips. How will you escape? How will you make it out? We'll have to look at it tonight. We'll have to look at our escape plan, our dungeon escape plan tonight. But before we get into that, I want to mention something, and I talked about this a lot on the Discord, and I must confess to having enjoyed more than a little bit of how do you say it? Schadenfreude. Anyway, shameful joy at a situation that's going on right now in tabletop RPGs with a couple of people. Not with the people that they have hurt, and the list is long. I'm not going to do a show about that. I'm not going to address it because it doesn't so much really affect us here. In fact, I'm going to go the other way. From Saturday into Sunday and Sunday into today, I have been marinating in the negativity of this. Just reading and eating this poison. And I decided, I made a decision. And my decision was this. That I am not going to spend any of my electrons on this situation. The people that have been hurt have voices now, and they have advocates, and they are dealing with this. And the people that did the hurting are getting their comeuppance. No, what I am going to do is talk about the video title, which is, as you saw when you clicked on the link. This is me saying thank you. This is what our hobby should be. This is where we should be. We should be thanking each other. Our hobby doesn't need egos. Our hobby doesn't need rock stars. Look, I'm only here because I saw people hurting because of the lockdowns. I said, I have an internet connection. I have a digital camera. I can talk to people. And it's kind of evolved into this. So that's why I'm here. It's been fun getting up to 1,000 subs on the channel. I appreciate everyone who has contributed to that, who continues to contribute to that. But let me just say that the egos, the attitudes, the more famous than thou, that can sit at the door. And not come in here. I've said before that I gatekeep as hard as I can. All right. I gatekeep the tabletop hobby. I only want people here who are interested in Dungeons and Dragons. That should be your primary interest as to why you want to come and sit at the game table that I'm running. Not to evict some social change, not to make a statement with a capital S, not to become famous with a capital F. That isn't why I do this. So I want to thank people. I want to thank Todd and Anna for believing in me and giving me a public space to game and to play, and not just like, yeah, you can have a table over there. I mean, they've made me the host of Free RPG Day. I want to thank all of you guys. All of you guys. Thank you so much. Look, whether you just stop by or whether you're subscribed and you're a patron and you're on the Discord and you play in the Tuesday night games or anything in between, you have my endless gratitude. You're awesome. I want to thank my co-host, Kyle Schuant. All right. We have a good show on Wednesday night because of Kyle. I wish I could get him here 5 nights a week. I want to thank everybody who's ever been a guest on the show. Anybody who's ever come here, and I mean, the list is huge. Sky Hernstrom, Paul Stormberg, Alan Hammock, more times than I can easily remember, Jim Ward, Darlene Peekle, just the list just goes on and on of people who've come on the show. Thank you to all of those people. Thank you all very, very, very much. And I want you to give yourself a round of applause, and I want you to remember you and I are what the hobby's about. It's not about egos. It's not about control. It's not about rock stardom. We just want to play D&D, and we just wanted to be left alone to play D&D. So that's what I have to say about that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for making this a fun ride. Thank you for making this enjoyable to do. But now, with that said, I have aired out everything I'm going to say. If you really, really want to pick my brain over it, hit me up on the Discord when I'm not thinking about the show. Hit me up on the Discord when I just want to just put my feet up and just BS about it. So, for all you guys do, for everything everyone does, thank you. So let's get to it. Let's talk about Dungeon Module A4 in the Dungeons of the Slave Lords, also known as the beginning of the Slavers modules. No, not the end, the beginning. Is it some weird kind of time loop thing, you might ask? It is not. As I've said before, and if you're just kind of joining us now on the tail end of this, the A series of modules, thank you, Dungeon Minister, the A series of modules were written, they were created backwards. What happens to a group of adventurers that are completely stripped of their gear, completely denied their spells, and stuck in a place where resources are hard to come by? And it's just down to the individual players and their skill to get out of a dungeon. They may acquire a few odds and ends as they go. They may find allies. They may find enemies. But how will your best players react? And the process was, here are the characters in this underground maze. How did they get there? Well, how did they get to the point where they got there? And so on, all the way back to A1. And that is the exegesis of each module in the A series. And so we come to the last of the A tournament modules, which has got to be the penultimate thrill for Luther Pendragon there, because we're jumping into S3 after this. But that's for later talk and discussion. I don't even know if Luther's still out there, but we'll find out. So let's open. Let us open in the Dungeons of the Slave Lords. And this is also by Law Schick. And I promise you, I'm not saying a dirty word there, YouTube. Let us peek into the Dungeons of the Slave Lords. And let me get over here. OBS, take me away. Let's see. Can I do that? Nope, that won't work. Let's come back to it. Let's see. Let's add. I need to do a screen capture. I'm gonna try and do this like this. Let's see. We're going to call this a 4. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, we can do it there. We can do it like that. I can just come in and it'll be a little less of a hassle. I'm going to shrink that down there. And then I'm going to shrink me down. I said I'm going to shrink me down. What day am I going to be talking about Expedition of the Barrier Peaks? Well, Luther, if you're going to be out of town, since you are my guest and I am your host, how about, what if I did the A series, or the S series rather, and I'll start off. I will start off with S1 while you're away, or do you want to see the whole S series? I mean, I can't put it too much on hold. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out a good place for me. My apologies, everyone. I can't put it too much on hold, Luther, but I will do my best to hold it for you. Luther, I try. All I can do is try. All I can ever do for you guys is try. So here we are. I'm sorry for the moving of the windows around. I'll complain to my production guy later about that. Here we are in the dungeons of the slave lords. We start off some gorgeous art by Errol Otis. And if you're picking this up in 80 or 81, and you have no idea what's going on, you've got characters fighting mushrooms. Characters fighting mushrooms. So what is going on here? The Errol Otis art is the best. It really is. It fits that trippy weirdness. So let's read the blurb here on this magenta cover. It is almost, but not quite, the same magenta that is the color of B2, which immediately attracts the eye. And I like it. Greetings, Lord Corion. Well met. Trapped in the dungeons of the slave lords, the hardy adventurers must find a way out with only their wits and courage to help them. But can they do it before everything is destroyed by the dreaded Earth Dragon? Mobius, greetings. This module was originally used for the final round of the official Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Open Tournament at the Gen Con 13 game convention, and is the culmination of a series of four related tournament modules from TSR. This module contains a challenging scenario for experienced players, the tournament scoring system, and 9 fully equipped playtested tournament characters. Also included are large-scale referees maps, playing aids, notes, and background information. A4 is a complete adventure itself, but can be used in conjunction with A1, A2, A3. Be sure to look for other exciting modules from the game wizards at TSR. Let's dive on in. More Errol Otis awesomeness. We have a cave fisher reeling in an unwary adventurer. If you have an adventurer, and I have an adventurer, and I send my tongue across the room, I reel your adventurer up. I reel him up. There you go. 5 XP for the person who can tell me what that's from. All right, so we have the same blurb there. We have the same blurb. Oh man, I lost 3 viewers on that. All right, so we know at this point what the adventurers have been through. They have explored the slave pits of the Undercity. They have searched out the secret of the slaver stockade. Secrets, it should be. And finally, they have assaulted the area of the slave lords. Now, whether you have engineered it because you wished to play this module, or because it's a tournament, or just because the characters couldn't crack that nut, your characters now find themselves in the dungeons of the slave lords. Now, dungeon, you say. Bill, I know how to do a dungeon. I don't need advice on how to run a dungeon. This is completely different. And Law Schick tees off right here by saying, in the Dungeons of the Slave Lords has been designed for 6 to 8 characters of levels 4 to 7. I would not take a sub 5th level character into this party unless they were dual classed. However, the unusual nature of the dungeon makes it uniquely suited for adaptation for play by characters of almost any level, simply by increasing or decreasing the number of hit dice of the monsters. Well, that's certainly something you can do. In this module, the player's skill, not the character's level, will determine success, which is really how any adventure should be. That is how an adventure should be played out. Obviously, a first level party going into G1, they're going to have a bad time. I don't care how skilled they are. When a giant can clip his fingernail and the fingernail smack the magic user in the face and the magic user dies, yeah. But the point is, within a limited range, within a broad range, let's say, an experienced party will always do better than a less experienced party. Are we going to find Arnie Sacknussum and Gertrude the Duck down there? I don't know, Robert. I don't know. We'll have to see. Several fighters and at least one cleric, one magic user, and one thief are required, of course. Now, here's the thing. Law Schick tells you, the dungeon master, crack your knuckles. And by the way, I should point something out. Again, for Luther's comfort, we may not get through this module tonight. I'm not driving on through the night. I got an AD&D game to run at 10 o'clock tonight. And it's already 8 o'clock. The preamble, the weepy-eyed thanking of you guys, all that stuff, that ate up some time. So we're probably not going to get through this module tonight. So it may be we don't start the S series until you're back, Luther. See, I'm nice like that. Now, one thing, and this is, let me tell you something. If this module is like any high-level module in any other module series, this is most like D2. I would dare say that this is a mid-level D2. And like a mid-level D2, it says, before commencing play, the DM must read the module thoroughly and become familiar with the scenario. Otherwise, the DM may give information away accidentally and may have to spend a lot of time during play carefully reading the encounter areas. This disrupts the flow of play and causes serious time problems if the tournament scenario is in use. After reading, the DM should decide whether or not to use this module as part of a regular campaign or as if in the tournament it was designed for. If the latter course is chosen, special attention should be paid to the tournament notes section. As in the other A series modules, the information in the key is usually divided into two sections. The boxed material contains the information that will be obvious to the characters upon casual inspection of the encounter area. Unlike the other modules of this series, in this module, the box text is not to be read to the players word for word. The DM should convey the information to the players in the standard style of description and question and answer. The unboxed text is DM information which players may or may not uncover depending on how things go in the encounter areas. Let me tell you guys something. That should apply to every module with box text. I'm sorry, I don't care if Gary wrote it. I don't care if Rob Kuntz wrote it. I don't care who wrote it. Box text should not be read verbatim to players. If it's obvious things, the sun is streaming through the window. You don't have to obfuscate that. But I'm saying put your own flair on it. Put your own spin on it. No player wants to just hear something just preambled, rattled off to him. Thank you, Lord Corion. Hit it out of the park. Box text is bullet points. Give them the information, but bring your own style. Bring your own flair. Don't just let it lie there and kind of mash about on it like it's cold pizza dough. Now, perhaps one of the most important paragraphs in the DM notes. This is an unusual scenario in that the characters start off almost totally bereft of equipment and spells. Many players think of their characters in terms of their powers and possessions rather than as people. Such players will probably be totally at a loss for the first few minutes of play. It is likely that they will be angry at the DM for putting them in such an unfair situation. They will demand or beg concessions. Do not give them any help. Even if they make you feel sorry for them, inform the players that they must rely on what they have, not what they used to have, and that this includes their brains and their five senses. Good players will actually welcome the challenge of this scenario. All players will ultimately enjoy the module much more if they get out on their own resources rather than with what hints and clues the DM gives them. This module is not a challenge for experienced characters. This module is a challenge for experienced players. Now, we get into the meat of it. The dungeon labyrinth is far from a normal AD&D dungeon. To escape, the player characters will have to make the best of the opportunities offered by the contents of the various encounter areas. These opportunities may seem meager to the players at first, but this dungeon contains more than enough material for the players to escape from any of the exits if they have the wits and resourcefulness to recognize and utilize. However, this module is also a test of the ability of the dungeon master. It is a virtual certainty that good players, forced to rely on their own initiative, will attempt to use what they find to do things not covered by the rules. In these situations, it is entirely up to the DM to handle these requests with fairness, objectivity, and imagination. Some things the DM can think about ahead of time. For example, how will the party make light or ropes or mark their way? Consider such things, but be prepared also, for the players will probably think of things that never occurred to you. That is an absolute truism. No scenario survives contact with the players. This one doubly so, because the players are desperate. You have started this module and put them over a barrel immediately. They are desperate. Some may feel like this is unfair, and they will do equally unfair things to try and get around you. So be ready for it. Now, I'm not going to read all the sections here. You can read them yourself. But I think those keys, those key areas that I touched on, are absolutely important. So let's take a look at a few things. Mapping. No, mapping is possible by players until characters acquire something to map with. Mapping requires light and a reliable writing instrument. Note, a pricked finger is too messy and the blood will keep coagulating. Characters do not know which way north is unless they have a stoutish halfling with them who thinks to check for direction. All directions should be given to them in terms of right and left. This will make it difficult for the players to keep track of where they are and where they've been, but not impossible. If they think they've been someplace before, do not confirm or deny it. Describe the place and let them decide. It explains how they can start fires. Climbing. Fighting in the dark is at -4 to characters without infravision. Footprints or other marks on the floor will be wiped out by the shaking of sand with each tremor and thus not be reliable road marks. Characters may decide at some point to rest and or sleep, particularly in order to regain spells. There are several ways to dissuade from them from this. One way is to tell the players, you rest for 40 minutes, but then there's an earth tremor slightly larger than the last. Your rest is spoiled. The best way to deal with this in a time-important situation such as a tournament is to have the characters' rest time equal real time. To do this, the DM simply leans back and does nothing, responding to hurry up exhortations with, you're still resting. It's that Gygaxian one-to-one thing, right? Most parties will catch on within a minute or two and give up on this particular ploy. Hey, Jehovah, good to see you. Oh, nicely, 14 people here. Good, welcome to everyone. Key to the labyrinth, and we're gonna look at the map. I want you guys to check out the map, but I want to read the opening area here. And again, remember, our box text, we're not reading verbatim to their players. We're not. Entrance to fear. The party awakens in a place where there is no light and no sounds but their own. Characters with infravision can ascertain that all party members are present. The place they are in looks and feels like a natural cave about 30 feet in diameter. There are 4 10-foot-high exit tunnels, somewhat evenly spaced around the perimeter. Characters with infravision cannot see a ceiling. Apparently, it is too high. The floor is covered with sand. None of the party have any possessions save a dirty cotton loincloth. They have no weapons, no food, nothing, only their wits, and a small closed cloth tube which rests on the floor in the center of the room. It is 1.5 feet long, about the size of a wand or scroll tube. If the players look down the exit tunnels, they will see nothing down the 3 of them, but they will see a distant dim light down the 4th, northernmost tunnel. This light occasionally flickers and moves slightly. That's why you don't read this verbatim to the players. And we have a description of the room, but the scroll tube is actually it's a cloth tube, but it does in fact contain a scroll. Looks and feels like a natural cave, exactly. And so we have many scrolls in it. Scroll A is audible glamour, dancing lights, wall of fog, and invisibility. Scroll B is spider climb, feign death, and dig. Scroll C is affect normal fires, light, jump, and read magic. Now, interestingly, read magic. Let's take a look at that. This spell is permanently written in a common magic user script as in a spell book and will not disappear once read, unlike other spells on the scrolls. You may have players ask you if they can do things like that later. I leave it up to you DMs to decide whether or not you'll let them get away with that. Maybe it's Maybelline. Thank you, good-looking honky. Let's see. Of course, it is impossible to read normally with infravision, so these scrolls must remain a mystery to the party until they can find a light source. The special read magic spell will enable magic users to read the scrolls. An illusionist does not need to read magic to read illusionist writings. Now, that's interesting. If the players think of it, they will find that it is possible to make crude blackjacks with their loincloths in sand, which they can wield at -2 to hit. Wet sand is better as it is heavier, and use of such will cause the attacks to be made at only -1. All the sand in the room is dry. Sand blackjacks strike for 1 to 4 points of damage, but only half of this will be permanent damage. Your naked screaming party charging at a monster, wielding sand-filled loincloths. Oh my gosh, how hilarious. I get the most eclectic crowd through here. So let's take a look at a few things that they can find. Yes, our friend from the gate was the beggar, and he managed to get you that. Let's see. So we start to find things. We start to see things that the players can find. There's an ancient feeble will-o'-the-wisp, -8, move 18, 6 hit dice, 21 hit points, damage 1 to 8, special defense. The only spells that affected are protection from evil, magic missile, and maze. Your party doesn't have any of those, if you'll recall. Let's see. But in the will-o'-the-wisp's lair, we have new monsters too. Sandlings. See listing at the end of the module. Their parent is not harmless, even though the young are. But the will-o'-the-wisp has 2 items, a human skull and a rusty dagger. The skull can be thrown with the same range and damage as a club, but it is useless as a hand-to-hand melee weapon. The lower jaw of the skull is missing. The rusted dagger has a 35% chance per successful hit of snapping off at the hilt. And then you come to the real challenge, the Kingdom of the Kobolds. Now, I should point out, if your party has a monk in it, in this scenario, monk of 5th or 6th level might be doing okay. You know? Because he can strike with his open hand. So in the kingdom of the kobolds, this is the lair of the remnants of a kobold tribe. They've gradually been dying out for decades. Only 16 are left and were driven down into the labyrinth when the slave lords came and took over the upper caves. They've been barely surviving ever since. Their weapons are all constructed of bone and flint, and only the leader has a shield. Thus, their armor classes are worse than the usual 7. They've forgotten the use of fire and live entirely on raw fish. Kobold's Kitchen, yes. There is a there's a Hobbiton Bar and Grill in is it Pensacola, Florida? And they're a chain up there. There's like 4 of them. I know, I've never been. It's a bit of a drive. People think, oh yeah, you live in Florida, you can go out there. Yeah, Florida is like as long as California on the West Coast if you follow it around. But if I'm up there, I'll have to check it out. But so you can fight with the kobolds. You can remember negotiation is always an option. You could try to negotiate with the kobolds, or you can just kill 16 kobolds and all their young. But they have slings and spears, highly desirable items for the desperate party. And then you got their kitchen. This is an absolutely gorgeous piece by Jim Rosseloff. If Mr. Rosseloff were with us still, I would pay for like a color print of that to put on the wall of the dungeon here. Is that not an absolutely beautiful piece of art? I mean, nothing says feral kobolds quite like that. Let's take a look down for a little bit. Let's scroll down. The ants. I forgot about the ants. There's the chieftain's chamber with all of his treasure: 4 copper, 6 silver, a half of a gold piece, and 3 white pearls, each of which is a base 100 GP gem. God, can you imagine you as the DM? You're like, start dicing that up and you just get one improbable roll after the other. And one of those things is worth like 4 million gold pieces. I'd roll with it. I'd be like, hey, by the way, guys, you made it out of the dungeon. You had to flee. Don't feel too bad, though, because here's a bit of good news. Giant ants. They have an iron spike and a sharpened piece of flint. There's some more Errol Otis art. The killer crab. This is all stuff. There's underwater parts where the party has to come up with a method of breathing. And no, there's no water breathing spells or anything, or potions, anything like that. I gotta ask though, what would you serve at the Kobold's Kitchen, Dungeon Minister? Like dog biscuits, rawhide chews. All right, years ago, I tried to give our dog Zeus one of those. It's like vegetable matter. It's a chew bone. Well, it's a dog treat rather. The shape like a bone, but it's got toothbrush bristles on the end of it. I don't mean real toothbrush bristles. I just mean it's molded like, it's a cartoony toothbrush. It's supposed to clean up their breath. I bought one. And I gave it to Zeus, and he took it in his mouth. And I picked it up, and I kind of tried, and I just like, and so I got it in his mouth the second time, and guys, I'm not kidding. He audibly went, blah. That dog. All right, so let's continue on. I want to show you guys the fearsome fungus. This, of course, those are violet fungi, which are bad news. Of course, they can rot you. Giant crayfish. More Jim Rosseloff art. Some Errol Otis art, some awesome Errol Otis art. But I want to show you guys, I want to zip down and show you guys the map. It's not that. There's a whole lot of areas that need to be shown and explored and so on. And by the way, we've got like a whole nother like half of a module to get through. So don't think that just because the players are able to get through here that it's all easy peasy. But this is the dungeon map. Very different. Anyone here who is in who has done any caving, or you just like looking at actual underground maps, this is more what a natural dungeon would look like. And even these are big, because if 1 square equals 10 feet, I mean, there's people that go caving and they're like, yeah, here's a space 6 inches wide, but if I turn sideways and suck my gut in and chip off a few rocks as I go, I can go through it. And I have to duck down halfway through because the ceiling lowers down, but the bottom widens out so I can get my knees through, and they call that like a hallway. And we call that a notch. We call that the notch hallway. And then there's a big cave where you can stand on your knees in there without hitting your head on the top, and stretch your arms out and almost not hit the sides of it. Never find me doing that. I'm not claustrophobic, but at the same time, man, come on. I'm not going to fit in some narrow crevasse in a cave. Not in Get Back Out. But that's what you're dealing with here. This is an atypical dungeon map. No easy highways this. Places where you can only go single file or 2 abreast. This is not your cyber dungeon. This is not 10 foot wide, 10 foot high corridor that goes 50 feet, turns exactly right, goes down, turns exactly left, opens into a 30-foot room. No. So these are all of your little encounter areas. You start here. And there's many different exits out. There's many ways to get completely lost in these dungeons. Oh, somebody wrote on the PDF before it got scanned. Nice. Dungeon Minister says, I love that map. I can imagine my crew's increasing confusion as the tunnels just keep going. Yeah, I mean, get the module, adapt it down, adapt it to BX, man. You know, the next time you have a total party kill, or if you have a total party kill, the party wasn't killed. They were beaten up and robbed, and the monsters dumped them in the dungeon. You don't have to do the back half with the Suderham map, which is what this is. This caving talk is making you uncomfortable. I've said this before, I've used Ted the Caver as a side encounter in a natural maze dungeon area. It was very unsettling to the player that decided to crawl in. And if you don't know Ted the Caver, go online, Google it, find it, read it. It's a hell of a story. So this, and yes, there is a good old-fashioned vampire. More beautiful art by Bill Willingham. And of course, we get the outlay of, hey, buy more stuff, kids. And this is late enough in D&D's development that, like, for example, the separate Giants modules aren't listed, and the separate D modules aren't listed. I mean, D3 is separate, but G1 and G1, 2, 3 are just listed. But S4 isn't out yet. S1, S2, and S3 are out. And Temple of Elemental Evil is not out yet. So let's go back up. Let's stop looking at product placement. And let's look at some of the monsters that are here and talk about them, because they're worth talking about. So the first thing we have is the aforementioned Cave Fisher. When I was making my There Will Be Blood joke, which none of you guys got, I'm a little disappointed. Cave fishers are hard-shelled, many-legged creatures that live by trapping animals in the subterranean world. To trap its prey, a cave fisher employs a super strong, highly adhesive filament, which extends from its proboscis. This filament is 60 feet long and tipped with a powerful adhesive sucker. I've seen enough hentai to know where that's going. A cave fisher can shoot this filament from its proboscis with great speed and accuracy. Basically, it sticks to you and it reels you in, and they can pick up to 400 pounds. Dungeon Minister says, when I was a teen, I took my players to the storm drains in my hometown, surreptitiously dropping coins here and there for them to find as we went. You went all mazes and monsters? Well, I'm going to be having you on the show again. And you're gonna talk all about that. I'm basically gonna not talk except to say wow and oh my gosh, and you're gonna tell us all about your LARP. You're gonna do that because I wanna hear that. I want to hear all about. Don't you guys want to hear about that? Don't you guys want Dungeon Minister on the show to tell us all about that? You brought it up. You have to tell. So let's see. That is outdorking me. Yeah. So yeah, you're going to be on the show, and you're going to tell us about that. So I think we got our next guest for a guest slot on the show. Hit me up on Discord there, Dungeon Minister, because that's not going to get by. We're not going to let that go. So anyway, Cave Fisher. It does have treasure, and the one in here has treasure, which is kind of key. Let's see. Hello, Peace Cyber 77.7. Suderham is on fire. And another great piece of art by Jim Rosloff. Some gorgeous Dave Sutherland art. I'm sorry. We'll go back to that after. We'll go back to what the Cave Fisher in this module has and how it can help characters out. So let's see. The Magman. The six-fingered Magman, I should point out. They are chaotic neutral, low intelligence, no treasure. They are from the para-elemental plane of heat. Occasionally, they pass into the prime material plane through gaps created by the great pressure and heat of subterranean lava. The molten rock of the prime material plane has a different taste from that on the plane of heat, and the Magman like to visit to absorb its essences. Honestly, who doesn't like to go to a place to absorb its essence every now and again? Not you guys. I know you guys do. I do. All right. So we have magmen because we have a volcano. And the myconid, probably some of the coolest monsters. Look at these guys. They go all the way up to 6 hit dice. They're lawful neutral. 1 to 4 to 6 to 24 points of damage per attack. They do have some treasure. Number appearing 1 to 12 or 20 to 200 in layer. And let's just read up on these guys because they're too cool. When I'm absorbing my essence, that's when I need to take a shower. I feel you, Lord Corian. The myconids, or fungus men, resemble walking toadstools in humanoid form. Their flesh is bloated and spongy and varies in color from purple to gray. Their skin, except on their hands, oozes a substance poisonous to animal flesh. Personal contact with a myconid in most places will result in 1 to 4 points of damage to the toucher. Each of their pudgy hands has 2 stubby fingers with a thumb on either side. The myconids live deep underground in conditions suitable to fungi. They never venture out onto the surface, and they have a deathly fear of direct sunlight. The exact effects of sunlight on a myconid are unknown, but they must be detrimental, or the fungus men wouldn't fear it so. Myconid be straight out of Dr. Seuss. Yeah, you're probably right there, P. Cybers. Myconid society is based on circles, extremely tight social groups linked by group work and melding sessions. Each circle's day is rigidly structured. 8 hours of rest, followed by 8 hours farming the fungus crops or doing other necessary work, followed by 8 hours of melding. For the myconids, melding is entertainment, worship, and social interaction combined. The fungoids gather in a tight circle, and the elder members release rapport and hallucinator spores. The entire group then merges into a collective telepathic hallucination for 8 hours. I think somebody was listening to some Pink Floyd while designing these guys. I mean, early Pink Floyd, pre-71 Pink Floyd. Myconids consider this melding to be the reason for their existence. Only distress spores will bring a circle out of meld early. A myconid circle usually consists of 20 members, 4 of each hit dice size from 1 to 5, i.e. 4 1-hit dice, 4 2-hit dice, etc. As myconids age, they continue to grow in height and weight, gaining 2 feet of height with each hit die. A 1-hit die myconid is only 2 feet tall of height with each hit die. A 1-hit die myconid... A 1-hit die myconid is only 2 feet tall, but the 6 HD King stands 12 feet tall. The damage they do in melee combat also increases in their size. Fungus men fight by clubbing with their clasped hands, doing 1d4 points of damage per hit die, i.e. 1-hit die mycos do 1 to 4, 2-hit dies do 2 to 8, up to the 6-hit die king, who inflicts 6 to 24 points of damage on a hit. They're fungus ents. The myconids also have the ability to spew forth clouds of specialized spores. The number and kind of spores they can emit increases as they grow. As each myconid advances to another size level, it gains the ability to spray another type of spores, and the number of times per day each type of spore can be emitted also increases. A myconid can emit each of its spore types a number of times per day equal to its hit dice. For example, at 3 hit dice, a myconid will be able to spray 3 different types of spores, and each may be sprayed 3 times a day. The spore types are listed and explained below in the order in which the abilities are gained. Let's see. Distress alerts myconids to danger or need. Baby cry. Reproducer. Oh, that's the second thing they can do. Yikes. Emitted only at the proper time for growing new myconids so that the population may be properly controlled. They are also automatically ejected by a dying myconid. This ability is gained at 2 hit dice per level. Rapport, primary in the melding process. However, they can also be used by the myconids to communicate with other species since the fungus men do not talk. A small cloud of spores may be puffed at one creature If the being fails to save versus poison, it will be able to go into a telepathic rapport with myconids, speaking mind to mind in a normal manner. Willing recipients of the spores may deliberately fail their save. The duration of the effect is equal in turns to the hit dice of the myconid originator. This spore ability is gained at the 3 hit dice level. Pacifier, if they fail to save versus poison, they do nothing, even if under attack. The target. Hallucinator. These spores are primarily used in the melding ritual. However, they will affect other creatures as well. The spore cloud may be shot at one creature, and if that creature fails its save versus poison, it will suffer violent hallucinations for a number of turns equal to the hit dice of the myconid responsible. Hallucinating creatures will react as follows. D20. Cower whimpering, stare into nothingness, flee shrieking in a random direction, attack closest creature to kill. It can kind of backfire on you. Hang on just a second here. Sorry, just I tend to get messages, so. All right. Let's see, where were we? Before we were interrupted. His conid and her conid, your conid and my conid. Tell me, little kid, how many damage points it did. You guys are good at this. You guys are legitimately good at this. I like that. And animator. It's gained at 6. The level of which is only the king may achieve. The king can use these spores to infect a dead person or animal body. A purple fungus will cover the corpse, taking over the dead body systems and putting them back to work, animating the corpse so it resembles a zombie. It is not undead, however, and cannot be turned by a cleric. The animated bodies are always slower than they were in life, and they always strike last in a melee round. Another resemblance to zombies. The body continues to rot and the fungus gradually replaces missing parts, specializing to take over their functions. Eventually, however, the decay proceeds too far and the body stops functioning, at rest at last. Animation will take place 1 to 4 days after infection, and the corpse will be animated for 2 to 5 weeks before it decays. Animated creatures will follow simple orders given by the animator with rapport spores to the best of their ability. Orders take priority over self-preservation. And that's some stuff about the king. Great, amazing piece of art. Right there. Look at that. Errol Otis. I love the eyes. He's brewing a potion. Looks very angry. In general, myconids are a peaceful race, desiring only to work and meld in peace. In combat, they will avoid killing if they can, as violence adversely affects their meld hallucinations. However, accord has never been reached with fungoid and humanoid. Each views the other as a disgusting threat, and population pressures in the limited underworld inevitably causes conflicts. So here are a race of things that your characters can encounter in the caves and possibly communicate with, possibly even gain a little bit of help from, because they have brewed potions. I do believe they have healing potions and some other goodies that the party might be able to barter with them for. Now, the unfortunate, I don't want to give too much away because we've still got some stuff to cover. Dungeon Minister says, I have a child's brain. Not in a jar or anything. Concern. I have the body of a small child. It's in a box in the trunk of my car. That's not. That's awful. I blame my wife. We were watching something about serial killers on Annie earlier. Sandlings. Large, neutral, 4-hit dice, no treasure. They appear to be an amorphous mass of sand, moving, sliding sand. It gets everywhere. An adult sandling is a solitary creature, and it dwells in lonely, sandy areas such as uninhabited deserts. Yeah, no kidding. Siliceous caverns and deserted beaches. Sandlings are savagely territorial and will attack any creature that trespass upon their areas. They fight by slashing and lacerating with a coarse, abrasive pseudopod. Sandlings' flexible, shifting forms are difficult to damage by physical assault. Thus, the armor class of 3. If a sufficient quantity of water or other liquid, 10 gallons or more, is cast upon the creature, it will have the same effect as slow and will cause the sandling to strike for only half damage. They're from the elemental plane of Earth. They bud. They have swarms. They sense heat, sound, and moisture. They dislike wetness and burrow underground to avoid rain or water, unless already defending their territories. There have been reports of huge sandlings 3 times as large as normal adults, but these have not been sustained. Sandlings are always the same color as the sand of their territories. They are also the same temperature as their surroundings and are thus invisible to infravision. So, we have some interesting creatures here. I would say of them, obviously, I'm going to show a little bit of bias, but the Myconids are really the way to go. Now, the cover showing the combat against the Myconids and all that horribleness, that's not really, that doesn't, I mean, I suppose if you've got a large enough party, that's a feasible option. But honestly, a group of adventurers' best bet is to try and communicate with the Myconids, strictly because the king can just walk up and, bop them on the head. The sandling is bad news. That's if it, yeah. I mean, if it all goes badly. I want to know about that vampire because I can honestly not remember. Let me see. We'll just So I do wonder about this piece of art on the back. Is there really a vampire in S4 or A4? There is a vampire in S4. You damn well better believe there is. Is there a vampire in A4, or is that just an hallucination? Vampire is a humification from the monoids. Okay. Works for me. You mean a hallucination from the Myconids? I suppose. But there's a lot more going on. And oh, by the way, more drow. Some truly delightfully strange Errol Otis art. I love these guys and gals. But there is much, much more than meets the eye going on here. Now, I want to talk about the cave fishers. Let's see. Cave fishers. Let's see. So I could swear I could have sworn that the cave fishers had some treasure, but I guess I was wrong. Now, let's stop here. Not stop here, but let's pause here and look at tournament scoring. Blech. King Fu. I like that. King Fu. He's the lord of the Fu people. For tournament purposes, only the dungeon labyrinth part of this module is used. The following method of handling the final round is suggested. Read the start section of the players, start the clock. Then start the clock. The team now has 4 hours to escape the labyrinth. Prepared character sheets are handed out to the players. They may take as long as they like to inspect them and get ready. When they tell the DM they are ready, he or she should start with the party waking up in Area 1. Scoring is simple and is based upon group success and getting out safely. So this is different from the grid we've had in the 3 previous modules. Scoring, each character who gets out alive plus 30 points, maximum of 270. Each minute spent getting out minus 1 point, maximum minus 240. Dungeon Minister, you're fired. I want your badge on my desk by tomorrow. That's so bad. I'm surprised I didn't say it first. Each encounter area where risk is taken or benefit gained, plus 5 points, maximum of 100. So the minimum number of points that you can get out of this dungeon with is 130. 1 award per encounter area, and number 1 is not counted. Encounter areas that the party passes right through without stopping or noticing do not count. If the party does not escape before the time is up, the final earthquake collapses the labyrinth and the party is killed. If all competing teams end up with negative points, the team with the least negative points is the winner. Use the blank area below for recording notes and encounter areas pass through during play. They're literally like, we've run out, so you can just write in shit down here. So you do start with a few spells, even though you have no gear when you start the tournament. Caraway has Cure Light Wounds, Resist Cold, and Create Water. LJS has Cure Light Wounds, Purify Food and Drink. And that's it. That's all you have for spells. And the scroll. Don't let your players say, can I swap that out for Continual Light? Can I swap that out for another Cure Light Wounds? No. I told you what your players are. I told you what spells you have. Now, if you have a party of completely different characters, if you're not using the pre-gens that you started with all the way back in A1, you've got some work to do, DMs. Because remember, if they have been thrown in the dungeons of the slave lords, it is so that they have been beaten, kept sleepless, maybe even killed, and raised back up. That's all they have. Now, some players might be asking, hey, what's the reward here other than just getting out of the caves alive? We've lost all of our stuff. Maybe we got some XP. Yeehaw. What is our reward? What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. We're going to look at that tomorrow night when we dig deeper and we go beyond the dungeons of the slave lords. Because there's more to this module than just making it out of the cave areas. That's right. And we're going to see what that is. We're going to see what that is tomorrow. So let's just come over here and do this. Let's just bring me back. Come on. There we go. So tomorrow we're going to see that the characters can potentially get out and get some equipment because bad stuff is going down. Bad stuff is afoot in and around Suderham, as we'll see tomorrow. The reward is the friends we made along the way. What if the treasure is overthinking? It better not be friendship or some shit. Honestly, I can't stand you guys. Oh, sometimes Oglaff is fun. So we'll look more into that tomorrow before we play AD&D. That's right. If you're a new subscriber here and you don't know your way around, you're like, does this guy just sit here and just talk about D&D all the time? No, we play D&D. No mere theorists us. We play Dungeons and Dragons. And we have a damn good time doing it. So what we'll do then is we'll cover the ongoings in Suderham when the party escapes, and then we'll play some AD&D. Now, I've been working my keister off here in the man cave. As you can see, the miniature bookcase is more or less complete. Alan Canning asks, okay, what adventure am I running? Are you talking about tomorrow night? We are engaging in an ongoing campaign, first edition AD&D, set in my World of Greyhawk campaign. And I don't just mean I'm running a game set in Greyhawk. It is my World of Greyhawk campaign. There are things that the players do that may affect things that happen with my Monday night game. But we will we can discuss that at greater lengths. Now, I do want to bring this up. Speaking of running games, Saturday, that's right, Castle Greyhawk. Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but a week from this Saturday, I'm going to be hosting Free RPG Day at Gods and Monsters. Come on down. If you're in the Orlando area, come on down. I have 10 seats open for the starting AD&D adventures. The Princess in Yellow. And then in the evening, I'll be running my homebrew scenario for Tales from the Loop, which, if you're not familiar with that, it's kind of a Stranger Things meets a bit of super science and cyberpunk game. It's a wonderful game from Freely called The Wheel in the Sky. So if you're in the Orlando area and you want to come down and you want to play on Free RPG Day, come on down. I'll be there. Management company and they're screwing up the atrium be damned. In August, which is rapidly coming towards us, I will be at QuestCon Orlando on the 20th, August 20th, QuestCon Orlando. Apparently they think I'm worth having down there to stand up and talk. So I'll basically be doing this, but in a more generic and broad sense, and then answering questions and whatnot and wherefore and so on and et cetera. But we will, we'll see you down there. When I say we, I mean myself and Tracy Lesh, because Tracy's going to be on Artist Alley, and he's invited me to come hang out with him after I stand up and make a damn fool of myself. So that's all happening on August 20th. That's going to be fun. And who knows what's going to happen in between. We're going to have the Dungeon Minister on as a guest to tell us about his LARPing. In the local sewers, which I cannot wait to hear. But now, will that be streamed? Will Free RPG Day be streamed, or will the event at QuestCon be streamed? Oh, you shouldn't have brought it up, Dungeon Minister, if you didn't want to be here. So while I'm waiting for Alan Canning to answer, I want to take a minute and I want to reach out and I want to say big thanks to some folks who helped keep the lights on around here. So thank you very much to Joshua Garlock, Lord Corion, Ricky Maru, Mobius, Kevin Reynolds, Doomsword Deathmaster, Mark Simpson, Damien X247, James F. Keck, William Smith, the Dungeon Minister. Thank you, Dungeon Minister. Manny Wall, Mark Corey, Kevin Wood, Todd Sharp, Carnivore Farmer, Rob Knows I Can't Say That, you list, Jeremy Rule, Bo Ganora, Mikey Mank, Sky Hernstrom, and Peter Sullivan. Thank you all so very, very much. And if you wish to support us, if you've seen that list, you're like, I want Bill to read my name, you can support us via Patreon, patreon.com/The Delvers Dungeon, or subscribestar.com/the-Delvers Dungeon. So there's two ways you can support the show if you like. Or you can always feel free to drop a super chat for just one time. I am going to set up YouTube. Is it subscriptions? No, I don't think it's called subscriptions. Memberships, YouTube memberships, which will basically be the same thing. So if you don't want to go on Subscribestar and you don't want to go through Patreon, I'll set it up so there will be YouTube subscriptions. I just need to finish that and a few other housekeeping duties on YouTube. So you can certainly try that out. I don't know if QuestCon will be streaming. I can find out and let you guys know. So I want everybody to go forth and I want you to be positive. I want you to think of gaming, enjoy gaming, play some D&D tonight, look up some friends online and say, hey, you guys want to do some Keep on the Borderlands? You guys want to do some the Haunted Keep? Maybe a little Wizard Skull Dungeon, Village of Hamlet, something like that. Whether you do it tonight or tomorrow night, focus on the positive. Be there for the people that matter. Be the person that matters to someone. Be the stand-up, all right guy. Let's fill up our entire hobby, not with negativity, but with positivity. Let's fill up our hobby. Let's scoop the crap that has fallen in the pool out, flip it over the fence for somebody else to deal with. And let's fill up this hobby with positive experiences. That's what I want you guys to do. That's what I want you to go forth and do. Be there for the people who care for you. Care for the people who are there for you. I'm going to dip on out of here. Thank you, everyone, for being here again. As always, greatly appreciate it. Just thank you to everyone. A few more. Thank you to Don McVitie, who's been there for me as a friend for 20 years. Thank you, Don. I love you, brother. Thank you to Bards of Greyhawk, who make the awesome music that you hear at the beginning of every episode. Thank you to Bob Antone, who has also made an awesome piece of music that I need to quit lazing around and actually do a closing credits for the piece of music that he made. Thank you to Jeremy who pushed me to take my pro DMing in a proper direction. Thank you, everyone, for being there. Y'all have a great night. I'll talk to you later.